Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Seal of Approval. Joining me this week, as always, is Scrump. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm in a different room this week. If you hear a bit of a dead echo here, I'm in a slightly bigger room. So yeah, it's. I'm doing pretty good though. I'm doing okay. Things are kind of lifting up for now, so I'm enjoying the freedoms that the government.
I think your line is kind of breaking up a little bit.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Do I need to leave and rejoin or something?
Maybe.
Or can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Sometimes it breaks up, but like I will say something, and then you'll be like 5 seconds later, you'll respond. There's a huge delay.
Oh, god damn it! Latency. What the fuck?
Yeah. Anyway, while Scrump sorts that out, introduce my guests. Making a second appearance on Seal of Approval is Mitch. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good. And for his first time on Seal of Approval, Louis Laveau. How are you?
I'm good.
All right, so whilst Scrump is sorting out his latency issues when he gets to join us, I thought I would just introduce everyone again to the Seals of News. The Seals of News, who have brought us glad tidings of news. And so, as you can all see, there's several different stories which they've come with. So, Mitch, why don't you choose the first story for us to cover this week?
How about cancel?
Cancelled. Okay, so what do you think that's all about?
This is about the petition that's been going around, signed by many luminaries. So Noam Chomsky did it, and Applebaum, maybe? Yeah, or maybe I might be confusing her with the one who did Handmaid's Tale, which is
Atwood.
Atwood, yeah.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of people have signed it anyway.
Yeah. Loads of people signed this saying to denounce cancel culture, and in the end, they all got cancelled. And it's ironic because people like Noam Chomsky helped create the very culture that we're in, and Atwood, funnily enough.
Well, wasn't Noam Chomsky one of the people who stood up for a Holocaust denier?
He did, but the problem is because he's a diehard leftist, he's still enabling the rest of his side to do what they're doing. So in the end, his inaction, or at least being unable to galvanize the free speech area of the left, which isn't very big, but nonetheless he's there, so it exists, has resulted in him being cancelled, which is rather ironic.
What I found really strange with that was, of everyone who seems to have been involved in that letter, the one person that's really caused the controversy is, of course, J.K. Rowling.
Get another book, leftists.
Like that, and so what you end up with is people openly proving the point of the letter. Like there was a particular trans author who, or it's like a trans author or trans person or whatever, who is like issued a groveling apology to like all of her followers because, like, whilst she kind of understood,
well, they only apologized because they were like,
yeah.
Well, they were like, "Oh, I didn't know who signed it. I didn't know who signed it. It was this weird thing of it's not about the message, it's about the person. It's kind of retarded."
I from hearing some of these people respond to some of like the backtracks and the people later on saying like, "Okay, I disagree, so forget this letter originally." A lot of these people strike me as cowardly. Not all, but a bunch of them are objectively cowards who I'm not surprised in the slightest that after this is published they backed off and apologized and yada yada. But then you have people on it like David Frum, who's a total piece of shit neocon that when Donald Trump won the primary basically rage quit the Republican Party and the conservative movement to become a fifth columnist. And in part in doing that, he has been one of the progenitors of cancel culture, including on the right. So it's like when he signs this letter, it's like, I know you don't believe this. Because I've seen for years you actively engaging in an attempt to deplatform and demonize nationalists because you got routed in 2016.
There's also people like Matthew Iglesias, is it?
Yes, him
the
too.
dude from Vox.
Fareed Zakaria from CNN. Like, you guys are in CNN are literally cancelling people constantly every day.
They were one of the progenitors of it too.
Yeah, that's the whole
latter
meme thing. The rest of
Gloria Steinem signed this. Again, another progenitor. When's she ever been free speech?
It's weird.
So here we go.
Weird. See, I mean, okay, I don't object to the text of it. Actually, I think it's kind of a positive thing them doing that. But a lot of it is like, it reminds me of the tweet about when I voted for the cheaters eating people's faces party. I didn't think a cheater would eat my face.
Yeah,
it's that kind of stupid shit. It's like, yeah, you literally asked for this. You voted for this. You campaigned for this for years. Why are you surprised? What's happening?
I think the reason why these people signed onto this is because they did know that a bunch of fucking elite members were also signing this. And so they were like, oh, well, I'm elite too. And so that's why they signed it. I think that is absolutely everything. Because if you look at this, it's Harvard, Columbia, Princeton, Rutgers. These are all elitists. These are all intellectuals. That's why they signed this. It's just another inside-outside sort of club situation. And
they're trying to save their own skins. That's what it is. They've recognized the beast that they've created, and now they're trying to stop it. Kind of like in the Frankenstein kind of sense. Well, unfortunately, at the end of Frankenstein, spoilers, he gets killed by Frankenstein. Kind of, anyway.
Yeah, especially Noam Chomsky, I believe, was on this too.
Yes,
my God, dude. Like,
yeah.
Of anyone, like, he has been semi-consistent in like free speech quasi principles. Yeah. But the left that we have today, that is his child. He is the.
It is. He's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's very. You can't afford to be neutral on a moving train and all that shit, isn't it? He's basically saying that he's the one who's pushed the position that moderates and centrists are essentially enabling fascists, and that he's a lot of the intellectual underpinning of the complete bullshit the leftists spout.
And he is still to this day the biggest progenitor, the bedrock grandfather of fuck America leftist politics. He is the source of so much of this. You know, America is the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world.
Yeah,
we're the evil empire of the modern world. Like, he has even his philosophical underpinnings as it relates to international relations, like the Glenn Greenwalds of the world, like all the people of the world that ignore all the evil in the world and have a fucking just an absolute, like, their entire career is specifically all the things that America has done wrong.
Yeah, well, he seems he seems to have the idea that a state can basically have no morals at all, and because America messed up with Vietnam, therefore that shows that everything which America does since then has to be pretty much evil. That seems to be the take that he has.
You're correct, but it's also to the point of a lot of what has happened in the 20th century. And I know this just from growing up in the education system and then later on learning different things. Yeah. So much of what we were taught is through this lens of America did wrong. America did this for evil reasons. America is just arbitrarily evil, and there is no reason why we did certain things, why we did certain evil things. You know, there's no, like, they never tell you the reasons, what the justifications were, why they thought this. It was simply the idea, like, example, FDR and the internment of the Japanese. In his mind, what he'll tell you is it was just because they were evil. They were racist, when that's not true. Even if you can disagree and say that this was an evil thing done, they won't explain to you why it was done.
No, they won't.
They'll just leave it open to you to think that these people are evil and racist, and that was their entire basis for doing it. So I think one of the things that we're going to have to deal with in 21st century, one of the learning things, is how much the left has lied about the 20th century. How much they have, like, if you look at the anti-communist activities that existed in the 20th century, so much of that was justified.
Yeah.
So much of it was justified when we look in the 21st century and how subverted so many institutions in our country are. Everything they said about the 20th century and the anti-communist surveillance and vigilance and activities that existed then, it was all proven justified. Here we are in the 21st century where we're dealing with communists today.
We're dealing with it's weird. We're dealing with this very much the maturation of a Soviet op.
Yes.
What was the guy's name? I talked about on Parler. Yeah, Bezmenov. I talked about Bezmenov on Parler last week. A quick show for my Parler. But I talked about the fact that he really just laid this out in plain text to us. He just laid it out in plain terms, and we didn't listen. Like, he's like Doom Bezmenov. You could have listened, guys. Why didn't you prevent this?
But no, the way in which the American left frames everything which America has done to be morally evil is just like the kind of basically the British system at the moment, especially when you talk about the British Empire.
Yes.
Where there's absolutely no nuance in what the British Empire actually did. And I think a lot of this kind of stems from the way in which we talk about Nazi Germany, where everything which Nazi Germany did is morally and reprehensibly evil. Now, there's certainly parts of it which, like, for example, the Holocaust, where you can bring in the arguments. But when you start to just judge everything as being this was motivated only by evil and not looking around the situation as a whole, that then gives leeway to judge other things in history by that same standard, which is very difficult to do when you're looking at the nuance of imperialism during the 16th and 17th century. I mean, hell, even nowadays when we're talking about the cancel culture and the statues being torn down, there was a meme a month ago about, what was it, the Roman emperor outside York Minster? I can't remember. Yeah, I mean, that was a meme. That the statue would be torn down because of slavery in the Roman Empire. But then there was a legitimate conversation about it in York. Like, this wasn't. I double triple checked this.
Guys, did you know the Romans had slaves? I bet they didn't teach you that in history class, eh?
Yeah, it's like that. And this is the problem when you start to judge everything by it being motivated purely by evil. Because at what point does human society start to be motivated by nothing but good?
Well, the thing with the petition as well is that it's about 15 years too late, and it's also incredibly watered down. Mm-hmm. And the reason I gave you this Tim Pool meme is because Tim Pool, the notorious fence sitter, is now sitting on his fence with a rifle, telling people it's pretty much time for the shooting to start. I like that meme, but it's pretty much true. The transformation of Tim Pool from 2019 to 2020, from being let's all have a conversation about this and get on to you get what you fucking deserve, has been amazing. He's gone from the fence sitter to the fence Korean with his rifle.
But in a way, it's true. Like, I mean, a lot of the people on this list have only signed it because they find themselves, at the barrel end of cancel culture. Like J.K. Rowling is a big example. I mean, she's on there because of what she's experienced over the last couple of weeks. Now, I've talked about J.K. Rowling at length, and that I think that she didn't do anything wrong. But at the same time, a lot of the responses to cancel culture just seems to be when people have only faced it themselves. Otherwise, they support it and justify it in any way they can. And I think Graham Linehan is a great example of that. I mean, look at the way in which he treated Count Dankula. Look at the way in which he openly partook in trying to cancel him. And then when he started speaking his mind about trans issues, it was then that cancel culture became a problem. But it only became a problem because that was what he was talking about. And he
started coming to us for help and being nice, as if I should trust anything he says.
Well, I will be completely honest. I have spoken to Graham Linehan offline. I get along with him. I actually get along with him really, really well. But that doesn't mean that I won't highlight the sincere hypocrisy in everything which has happened. He only cares because it impacted him.
You ever seen Watchmen with Rorschach's speech?
Yeah.
And, He's look up and saying "save us," and I'm pretty much just looking down and whispering no. You're a bit more gracious than I am, I think.
I will do, because I still stick with the moral that this shouldn't be happening anyway. And it's better that he wakes up and realizes how bad this is and kind of turns that page. I mean, yeah, it shouldn't have come to that. But
well, that's the problem, though. That is ultimately the problem, because with J.K. Rowling, especially, like I quote tweeted her the other day and actually got retweeted by a whole shitload of people, including one angry gamer, because by all appearances she has not learned a fucking thing, because in response to her getting canceled yet again, and she has some skin in the game to lose. People are like, oh, she's a billionaire, she's got nothing to lose. Like, there's an active campaign, because there's several Harry Potter projects in the works, including a Harry Potter RPG. They're going to start trying to wrestle control of the IP from her, straight up. So in any case, J.K. Rowling went on Twitter and went into some like anti-male screed, and I'm like, this isn't like, you haven't learned anything. Like, I'm not doing anything to fuck with you. I'm not doing anything. Like, men in general are not doing anything to harm you or go after you in any way. In any which way. We're not trying to take away your rights to have an opinion based on your feminist nonsense. And yet you're still attacking us when it's so clear that this is a civil war on your side, and that your group of feminists have brought these people into prominence. Like, we didn't do anything.
She panded to them. She's the one who made Dumbledore gay.
Yes. Like, she is the one. She actively brought these people to prominence. She helped them along, guided them along, and used her money and properties to promote this. And yet here she is screaming about men and all this other shit. And it's like, bro, you haven't learned anything. And all your anti-male rhetoric is going to do is continue to isolate you, because I'm not stepping up and saying one good word about you when you're going out there demonizing men in particular, because you're so lost in your own ideological fog that you can't understand what is happening to you currently. She can't understand it.
Here's a hot take for you. I think she's doing it purely for attention, for her own gain, because she's writing a novel currently, like a non-Harry Potter one.
She's been writing a lot of those for a while. I personally, sorry, I'll let you make your point. Sorry.
And it's got this transgender character in it, right? And I think she's doing this just to drum up attention, so it becomes a massive big seller. She's made the whole thing about herself constantly. It's a me. Look at me. You can't criticize me. And then she throws her husband under the bus. Like, why do we need to know about him? It's clearly about you and your book. Get off Twitter and write it.
Just to point out, the trans character you're referring to has already been written, and that was back in 2014.
Yeah, I know, but she's still doing the research and stuff for it.
I mean, I've been aware of a lot of this for a while, because of the kind of people that Rowling has been following, the kind of groups that she's steadily getting involved in. I would disagree that this is a kind of like a call for attention, especially because this is one which is such a visceral response to her. I mean, when you look at, say, for example, when she's tweeting about a little kid who's drawn some art for her, and she kind of retweets that, and then you just look in the comments and there's just like someone with their dick out saying like, fuck this. Like, I she is getting, like, I don't think she's went into it or even kind of started making a comment realizing the kind of backlash that she would get. I don't think this is something about her wanting attention. I do think this is about her having her own thoughts on it, but I understand where you're coming from, in that it is kind of only really a problem for her once the cancel culture comes for her. Like, that entire list would not be like, in that list, has anyone noticed that? Are there any conservatives on there? How many people are right? How many people are right? Are there?
There are some people who kind of a lot of them are neocons. And
there we go.
The same thing.
Jonathan Haidt's a conservative.
There we go.
It's kind of the thing is the statement itself starts off with, well, we believe in the whole Black Lives Matter thing, and we believe in this whole moment of racial justice. It kind of shoots itself off from the start. It's too mild for the moment. It is a like I said, it's a watered down, dollar short, day late, non-statement, but it's nonetheless controversial. Because you've got a full hodgepodge of people signing it, and the left can't really stand people they don't like speaking out about anything. So even the most basically, it's like people I disagree with. Puppies are good, and it's just like the left. We hate puppies now. It really is just that they could say anything. This group of people could sign it, and the left would react negatively just because of who said it. It's only useful to show them like the environment that we're in. It kind of proves its own point, but I think the letter itself and a lot of the people signing it are useless, ineffectual, and the world has moved on around them by about 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, you can't get more. The world has moved on. The useless than Francis Fukuyama. Like his whole thing was, it's the end of history. Liberal democracy's won. Yet we're living in an era. I know this is probably off topic, but we live in an era where there's less democracies now than there were when that book came out. And now
it's really relevant. Yeah.
And he released a book called Identity, which I've got, which is about this whole culture war, and he misses the point completely in that book. And now here he is signing this petition to save his own skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, just as I've highlighted that,
by the way, I do like his book.
It wouldn't be a leftist letter without dunking on Trump.
I know.
Yeah,
they have to by law. Like they have no choice, right? It's like no, we're on your side. We hate Donald Trump as well.
Donald Trump, the democratically elected president, is a threat to democracy.
Yes. Not the people rioting in the streets or Ilhan Omar who's saying that the whole system of the United States needs to be torn down and rebuilt in a way that she sees fit. Like that's not a threat to democracy. It's Trump.
It's the fathers of the new authoritarianism realizing the mistakes they made.
Yeah.
Well, at least I think they are anyway.
And sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to go back to Mitch's point about J.K. Rowling, from what I know, if you're correct, she's taking one hell of a gamble for attention. I think that she has, like, I'm not kidding when I'm saying that they eventually, if she keeps this up, like she goes harder onto this, they are straight up going to start going for the IPs. They're going to try to pull it from her.
They will. Like, I can honestly, I mean, I know that Universal Studios has like plans for like further Harry Potter lands, like Wizarding World areas. Like those kinds of things will be cancelled if this all continues.
That's the question. Will they actually take her to court? Like there's got to be some sort of contractual dispute, like a morality clause that they can raise about her and try to seize the IPs from her.
That's terrifying.
It's possible.
I know, but like that is something which is actually scary.
It's just the reason why I say it's for attention is because she constantly makes it about herself. Like even in this,
it's because she's vain. I think that ultimately comes down to that she's a vain person. But in terms of it being like a publicity stunt for some potential book or like her games, like the game, especially that Harry Potter RPG that's in production that's supposed to come out like next year, I want to say.
Yeah.
But we've seen this before, though. We've seen SJWs and game like Battlefield 5, for example. They were using politics and stuff to shill their games, and obviously it failed. But there is precedence.
Yeah, there's one that backfired too. No, I think J.K. Rowling genuinely believes this. I think she is a habitual narcissist and makes everything about her, so it's hard to tell. But I think she's, and again, I think she's kind of a distraction. The news media has made it in the UK about Rowling because Rowling's a hate figure right now, and they're trying to basically dismiss the points that this letter raises.
Yeah, well, look at the likes of Pink News, who write several articles on her a day, and they've been doing that for the last month.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she really has become a figure of hate. Like, yeah, I mean, I know it gets in the clicks. But yeah, I mean, if she was doing this purely for attention, I think that I don't know. I don't think so. I think that I just think that this is something which I think she has a kind of a good understanding from the gender critical side as to what's going on. So she probably did, no doubt, think a backlash was going to happen, but I don't think she realized how big it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take on that.
Bring me a seal. I wish to choose a seal.
You wish to choose a seal.
I wish to choose a seal.
Yeah, let's bring out the seals.
I like the loose theming of this show. It is quite cute still.
Well, this is seals. The seals of news. Look, they've brought more news with them.
You know what? Just because I don't know about it, like, what the hell is going on with Halle Berry?
So Halle Berry, who was, famous for like playing Catwoman, has effectively been yes, was another person who is kind of cancelled, but cancelled on her own accord for wanting to play a trans man in a upcoming film. Now, the reason being that, well, trans people need to be the ones to tell their own stories. So you end up with an actor being told that she can't portray a particular role. And it's something which I've always found strange when it comes to like the LGBT stuff, when they get very anal about, well, this actor isn't gay or this actor isn't trans. So how could they possibly give a authentic performance on this? Not kind of realizing that acting is about acting.
Yeah.
And like they never make it clear for a lot of these roles as to like, is this someone who has like actually started a transition? Have they started taking hormones? Like, what is the actual point of what is the position of this person? Because for a lot of the time, like a trans guy will already be on hormones for a while. So if it's showing someone at an early age of their transition or someone who is not medically transitioning, I know I'm using a lot of buzzwords here, but like surely it's reasonable to expect like a normal person to just be able to portray them. I don't get why it has now become a protected category in the same way that, if you're white, you can no longer voice a black character.
You're right. It's like they misunderstand the meaning of acting.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is nobody's complaining when she played Catwoman, who's a white character.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, if you would look at everything based on race, and people have to portray everything based on who they are. Well, you can go out and completely cancel Hamilton then. Like everyone except for King George is not played by a white person.
Just got to keep in mind that Hollywood is in the epicenter of progressive bullshit, and these people are incredibly shallow. And so are all their friends. They're all incredibly shallow. And so when they're going to parties, it's parties full of incredibly shallow people with fashionable politics.
And also underage boys, if you believe a lot of the talk about Hollywood.
Yeah. But I think to me, it's pretty obvious why this happened. It's just peer pressure. That's it. That's the beginning and end. And she's a shallow person with shallow politics.
I think there's a big irony here in that if you want the stories told of quote-unquote marginalized groups to get people to watch it, you're going to have some star power there. You're going to have some hook to get some person in to watch some award-winning story about a trans person. And saying that famous actors can't play all these different categories of character is just going to cut all the films off at the knees. No one's going to fucking watch them because it's a nowhere film, not in a franchise they want to watch, with no actors in that they recognize. It's going to end up on Netflix or people huffing farts at a film.
Is the point of these movies to make money? Is it even with these fucking like transgender hero going up against?
It depends. If this is a kind of like an art housey independent film, then absolutely not. But if this is something which is being backed by a Hollywood studio, then yeah, absolutely. Like they want it to be a huge hit. The problem is, if they just want to have trans actors in it, there's none. Not really. Well, there's a few, but like they're not massive household names. Like the only ones that I can think of really is what's her name from Orange is the New Black? Laverne Cox. At least for American audiences.
Turns out a very tiny segment of the population doesn't have a lot of actors that come from it. Who knew?
Yeah. And there is also Talisa Garcia, but she is mostly known in the UK. Like she's not a trans man. So like, they have a very kind of limited reach. But I think it's absolutely a good point to raise that ultimately, if you want to tell these stories, it's best to have it with someone that people are going to see and then want to go and see the film as a result of them being in it. Like, star power is very important. Whereas you're not going to have that for non-binary actor to tell non-binary story because nobody gives a shit about non-binary actor. Like, if they want to finance their own films with their own actors and stuff, they're welcome to do so, and a lot of them do. But a lot of those films are crap artsy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, mainstream audiences don't want to see that. Mainstream audiences don't care about gender and exploring gender and stuff like that. Most mainstream audiences just want to see guns and boobs.
I'm surprised even now how often it is that, especially with the girl power angle, the issue with these with the studios and how willing they are to greenlight these movies when so many of them bomb. Like, the one exception is what's her face?
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, Captain Marvel. There,
Yeah.
that's the only one that I can think of that actually didn't totally bomb.
You could put like a Marvel logo on like a 3-hour film of someone cleaning up vomit, and people are still going to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's got that juggernaut of brand power.
well, yeah, and bear in mind it was just before Endgame as well.
Yeah.
That would be a major reason. I mean, the
but
only reason-
it's still a feather in their cap, but it's really the only one because I'd have to look up. But didn't that Harley Quinn movie? Didn't that one bomb?
Yeah, that didn't do very well.
I can explain it. There's two sides to it. There's trying to, or maybe three. There's trying to, they're trying to, one, get the SJW audience, which isn't actually an audience at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Two, they're trying to, basically, it's what Doomcock says, if you've watched him. They're trying to change our historic myths, our culture, by removing the original, like, you know, changing Luke Skywalker from this happy-go-lucky, strong Jedi to this horrible, evil, not evil, but just mopey,
Jaded.
arsehole. Yeah, and then just replacing the male Terminator with a female Terminator, for example. And then there's also the psychic prophet, because they think that they're doing something good while they're doing this. It's not about the money. It's about looking good to people, feeling good.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm surprised the studios, because, like, example with Terminator, I had to look up the budget for that movie. I know that movie bombed too, but it's like that was probably $100 million movie.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter about the money.
Well, to the studio and the investors, it does.
Well, for the investors, yeah, but for the people making the films and the ones obviously giving them the money, there's ulterior motives behind it, which kind of they don't care. Like, you know, Gillette, they lost millions, maybe even billions. The CEO said he didn't care because they fought racism.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
I got to make a correction. The budget for Terminator Dark Fate was $200 million.
wow.
And who knows how much more that they're not including like advertising. And it made $261 million total.
Generally, with a film like that, you times the advertised budget by 2.
Yeah.
Wow. That's what I find very strange when it comes to this kind of thing is that the 80s and 90s had so many better female protagonists than nowadays when they're purposely trying to force these kinds of things on the
It
audience.
was organic.
It was great when you had people like Ellen Ripley or game characters like Lara Croft and Samus Aran. You know, there's so many great characters, and they just made them without any kind of ulterior motive. It was just, let's make a character. That's the way that it should be.
Many, many years ago.
In a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever be returning to that time again because
No.
we're a little late in the game.
It's gone. Like, no, characters have to be stereotypes now, not actual people.
They've always been stereotypes. I mean, Simpsons wouldn't be Simpsons without stereotypes. It's the type of stereotypes.
Yeah.
Simpsons hasn't been Simpsons for fucking years, dude.
I know.
Yeah.
But he's talking about the original hit.
Yeah. You know, you need broadly drawn characters from recognizable categories and stereotypes to make a show kind of work at a glance, I think, really. It's just, they're really just hamstringing writers and directors and the entertainment industry in general until it's reached this point of ridiculousness where people just can't make anything.
Yes.
Well, we've reached the point in video games where every female like character is some like people, like for example, Abby in Last of Us Part 2, where it's like everyone, including me, was like, "Oh, this is some crazy whacked out transgender character," and it's like, no, she's supposed to be a woman, and it's like, okay, then she's the same. She's Cassandra and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Like they all look the same now.
Even in
it's
Hollywood.
the same body type.
Abby.
Skinny, slightly athletic looking with that short cropped hair.
Short cropped hair, unbelievably, impossibly buff, mannish behavior, and it's supposed to be a female, but it doesn't even look like a female that bodybuilds. It's an impossible build.
Yeah, Abby just looks weird because it looks like the only bit of her that's actually built is just her arms, from what I've seen.
No, she's got a very manly chest. If you look at
the sex scene.
Yeah.
Self-insert.
If you think about it, they're trying to...
Emphasis on the insert.
If you think about it, they're trying to create new Sigourney Weavers, but Sigourney Weaver isn't actually that athletic. She's just tall and skinny. But she's also feminine.
Well, it's because ideologically, it's just they want men to be women and women to be men. Like, they don't have any understanding outside of that, and their understanding of men is from the feminist lens, which is
pretty much
wrong.
Which is walking dildos. That's what they think.
Well, they think of men as like tyrannical mercenaries. Like, that's how they view men, and so that's what they try to create women to be.
If only. Or he wasn't chosen a seal yet then.
You want to bring up more seals?
Yes, more seals.
Oh, we're going through those seals today.
Oh, I maybe, God damn it.
We're on a seal roll.
We're on a seal rampage. I think some of the topics here we're going to have a lot to say about.
Yeah.
I know I have a lot to say about the Maxwell stuff. Holy shit.
Yeah. Oh, the Maxwell. I think I'm kind of picturing the Maxwell bit as like the whole bulk of the stream, basically.
Yeah.
So shall we hit on Maxwell? Louis, what do you want to what seal do you want to pick?
Well, we can do Maxwell, but I mean, when it comes to me, their only topic on here that I want to talk about is China.
China. That's the other big one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about China first, and then we will end with Maxwell. How about that?
Okay.
Yes.
What about super chats?
Good.
Well, okay, let's read some super chats first.
Oh, that's
There
what
are,
the point was.
yeah.
I thought it was a discussion about super chats.
No.
There are no super chats. So, guys.
Come on, guys.
Or seals. You know, the seals need their fibs.
Yeah, if you don't contribute, guys, the seals will die of hunger. We don't have any actual seals, but they metaphorically will. So
They will metaphorically cry.
Womp womp. But yeah, we can talk about
Let's talk about China. Let's get into China, because China is another one that's just fun to talk about. So Louis, tell us what China has been up to this week.
Well, I can't speak to this week in particular, but they've been up to nefarious shit pretty much every week. And as it stands now, it seems that more and more nations are deciding that maybe China is not a friend, and maybe we shouldn't be intertwining our national infrastructure with them and their companies, because that is a massive security risk.
I mean, they seem to be getting very angry with like every single person or every single country that is now kind of raising something. And I just kind of think they might soon be having a bit of an oh shit moment when all their biggest finances are gradually moving like production away.
Well, they haven't moved to a domestic market yet. They haven't got enough domestic market anywhere near to support their economy. If they have made sanctions against them from the bulk of the West, even, they're fucked. Yeah. I mean, India already hates their guts. They're basically borderline at war right now.
Yeah.
And I'm saying CIA, come on. Step it up. Come on. Gulf of Tonkin. Let's do it. Come on.
The only people who seem to be on their side right now is just everyone who's involved in the Belt and Road Initiative.
Now, even then, though, a lot of the African countries, the populations are getting very sick of the Chinese.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Like the populations themselves. When I'm talking about the leadership, and it's the same with a lot of the Muslim countries that are involved in Belt and Road. You know, they seem to be perfectly fine with everything that's happening with the Uyghur.
I think a lot of these countries, though, when it comes time to China to get their shit kicked in, what's going to happen is that they're basically going to go, lol, thanks for the infrastructure, get out of my country. There's nothing China can do about that.
I agree. I think the Chinese really misunderstand. Like, they think they're going to come out as some big bad imperial power.
Yes.
But I think, including with, again, CIA, step it up. They
I'm blowing the docks.
They definitely are stepping up to a stage that unless we back down unless we submit to them, and I think there's plenty of fifth columnists in all of our nations that need to go.
Yes.
But unless we bend the knee to them, they're going to step up to a level in the world that they're fundamentally not prepared for.
Well, what's been happening this week in the UK, to frame why this is on the list, is the Hawawa negotiations. I know the US did the right thing and outright banned Hawaii from participating in its telecoms network, especially after what happened in Canada, where they found a bunch of tracking chips in the switching boxes and routing network stuff that Hawaii provided to Canada, which culminated in that whole arrest and an eventual. I think they were actually extradited to the US, weren't they, recently? That Hawaii executive.
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
So in that, the UK has been trying to set up its 5G network, which is a whole other drama of itself with all those 5G conspiracy theorists. You're going to fry your brain and make you gay. For me, but anyway, it's a case of the UK government. There's been a dossier. It came via the Daily Mail, so I'm not sure how reliable it is, but it seems to have been pretty explosive because the UK is now talking about joining the list of countries that there's outright banned Huawei from its telecoms network. They just want to straight up yeet them from participating in 5G. This turned into a bit of a war of words in terms of trade, where China is threatening UK trade if they don't let Chinese companies participate, which is, again, kind of suspicious. Like, unless you have something material to gain, apart from national pride, you don't tend to threaten other people's trade. It kind of leans into the idea that Huawei has a bigger involvement in the Chinese government than they let on.
It's quite obvious.
Did you see that Huawei UK actually did a video dispelling any notion that the Chinese government has anything to do with them?
Yeah. All we have to do is look at the law.
It's like a propaganda video.
All we have to do is look at Chinese law, which is publicly available, and we find out that actually private companies are not actually private companies in China.
No, they're not.
Another thing that happened this week was TikTok. Trump said that he's thinking about banning it because there's been people who've been doing some digging into like the code and whatever they've been doing, and they've discovered that there's actually spying algorithms or some kind of thing that's going on where it's getting your details.
What a surprise!
And India's already banned it. India refuses to have TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok's on the shopping block.
The rhetoric. Go ahead.
I know I'm a free speech absolutist, but when the nap is literally fighting that history, fuck off.
Fuck that. The concept of free speech to allowing frickin' Chinese malware masquerading as apps for kids. That's the rhetoric that they're starting to engage in. They're starting to engage in the rhetoric of this is protection towards our children's privacy. Ban this app, and that is the smart way to go about it.
Again,
people won't even think about it. People won't even think about it for a second. They go, "Oh, my children are at risk. Yes, ban it." And it's like, well, the fact is that this program or this app, while it may actually be, culturally significant in the United States, it is a security risk, and we shouldn't just ignore that.
Yeah, and also I think it's up to something. I mean, they're targeting a young audience for a reason. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I'm sure that's just
evidence. There's evidence of the telemetry it sends and the kind of opaque structure of TikTok itself. They've already been caught sending data where they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
In terms of the Huawei stuff, what makes me reticent about this new dossier, the explosive dossier that China basically has a bunch of UK elites in their pocket, which I don't actually doubt on a kind of anecdotal level, but this was put together by Christopher Steele, the author of the infamous piss dossier. Yes, that Christopher Steele. So taking a few pinches of
well, of course, unless any of us actually see it, it's all speculation until then.
Take a massive mundane mat-sized boulder of salt.
Well, I thought
get it delivered to you via Uber Eats. Yeah.
There was a member of the Conservative Party, might have been a Conservative lord or something, who was started to complain about xenophobia within the Conservative Party, because people criticizing China, that instantly means you hate Chinese people. Basically, just taking the exact playbook that the CCP hands out to the world, saying that they are China. And any criticism of China is an insult to the Chinese people because the people in the state are one and the same. And everyone falls for it. It's like the whole fucking China virus shitstorm all over again. People were only flipping out about
China
because the CCP were starting to get offended by it, and then they just pulled out the typical race card because that now works in the West, and everyone was fine with it. It was cool.
Anyone that's pulling out that card, I guarantee you, anyone that's coming out being like, oh, the Chinese racism, blah, 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 they have money invested in China. Yes. They have a stock portfolio where they have investments in China, or some broker, someone they work through has their money in China, manufacturing,
all the
whatever.
People are taking their money out of China. They're all putting it in Australia. That's where part of the controversies come from.
Yes.
There. Anyone who's in the know realizes that China is on the downslope right now. They have got massive capital flight issues. They've had to limit the amount that Chinese nationals can take out of the country in terms of cash because they are just stripping their assets from China because they know it's not a safe place to be.
The fact is, too, that they could solve all of that. They could solve all of their economic woes, all of these woes. All they need to do is drop their flag when it comes to pursuing international power. When it comes to them trying to pursue hostile measures in geopolitics against the United States, all they have to do is drop their flag, trying to challenge the United States as the hegemon of the world. If they drop their flag, all this fucking stops, and we reset to us being their fucking simp, generally. But they don't. They're still pursuing international power, and they're still trying to take us out. And so that's why this is continuing.
No, I completely agree. It's just absolutely frustrating the way in which very little people have actually spoke out to China until now, though. I mean, even back in January when the whole Huawei being involved in 5G was a big part of the, kind of like the political discourse over here. And again, this was before Corona was a thing. And like you still had people kind of speaking out against it, but just the way in which the Conservatives just pushed it through, like that was the thing that made me dislike Boris Johnson, even before the whole lockdown situation. That was the thing that made me angry.
I think all of this in the past couple of years has just proven that, if we just trade with them, if we open up their economy, they will naturally liberalize as the middle class rises. Well, apparently that's just been completely debunked.
Oh yeah. That was the initial response. I believe it was it under Reagan?
Nixon.
No, it was Kissinger and Nixon.
Yeah, of course.
And Kissinger.
I want to say that in its origins, that was an administration thinking that they're playing four-dimensional chess. And that since the 90s, it has been well known that aspect was completely wrong, and we've been playing into it for the sake of our own individual gain.
Yeah,
we're addicted to cheap Chinese labor is the problem. Yeah.
Well, they just kind of fell instantly in love with Deng Xiaoping. Like they just thought, like, oh yeah, he's going to completely modernize China. It's all going to go, that China's going to quickly become like a liberal democracy. Mao's dead. This guy seems like he wants to open up the world, and then Tiananmen Square happened.
Yeah, as soon as Tiananmen happened, we should have dropped China like a stone. We should have kicked them. We should have kicked them back into the dynasty days. It's amazing how China thinks it's number one, but it's amazing how for like the last 200 years it's basically been the bitch of everyone else, and they have a massive inferiority complex about that. That's kind of why they're so brazen and why they throw a shit fit over every small diplomatic issue is because they basically have small man syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like how China's ego is and how easy they are to stand up to on an international scale because they are a paper tiger. They have no ability to project power. They couldn't even copy those 1970s Soviet aircraft carriers they bought. They still have failed to domestically produce a lot of arms. They've celebrated a few years ago when they managed to make a workable ballpoint pen because their industry precision is so China is hyped up, but China is a mess. And if we all decide, you know what? Fuck China. China will collapse overnight. They are not self-sufficient.
I love China. China all the time. As a country and a culture that I've been to, I've enjoyed that. There's a lot about it that I can very much appreciate. But all the problems of modern day China now pretty much stem from the CCP.
They stem from the Cultural Revolution, and it really does. It's a shame all wonderful history got so diluted.
It did, because communism was never really compatible with the Chinese ethos anyway.
No.
It never was. Like so much of like Chinese culture is about kind of amassing your own personal wealth. Like that's a big part of Chinese culture. And so to just tear everything down and effectively make having anything that resembles capitalism illegal during the days of Mao, like that's why it put China back so far. Like it just went against their natural instinct.
That and the whole Four Pass campaign, and hundreds of millions of people dying. But
well, that and the Great Sparrow War.
Yes.
The 100 Flowers campaign.
Oh, God.
The Great Leap Forward.
What did I miss? Are we still talking about China?
The Red Army.
Yeah.
I've got another historical thing about this. The reason why we got closer to them and why we opened them up is because we were trying to split them off from the Soviet Union, because in the 60s they started fighting each other. And then Nixon, this is a good idea. This is exactly what you do. The enemy of your enemy is your friend, although I don't like that idea. But when it's countries, that makes sense. So they split off the two finally completely. And that contributed to the end of the Soviet Union. Unfortunately, we didn't then decide, well, now China's the enemy because communism isn't completely destroyed. For some reason, after the end of the Cold War, they decided, well, that's it. China just automatically become like us.
Well, China's
Vietnam is still communist.
Well, China's attitude towards Russia was basically just destroyed once Stalin died. Like that's the one action that ultimately kind of destroyed their relationship. Like when Khrushchev got into power, Mao didn't respect him. Mao wanted to then be the leader of the worldwide socialist movement, hence why the Great Leap Forward was pushed so hard.
If I can rebuff, actually, one of the things that Scrump's talked about as it relates to China, I think that in large part he's very right about the economic mess in China. And it's very clear about the military gap that there is between China and the United States, that they have plenty of catching up to do, and it's going to require a hell of a lot of money to actually bridge that gap. But the place where I think that they are a real threat is culture. I think that the West and America we may be the most weak we have ever been in our history culturally. Maybe that's true of the UK and other other nations on the continent.
Oh, it's definitely true of the UK.
It's true of the US, I'd say as well.
We are the United States. We are the weakest we've ever been culturally, and the speciality of communists and their organization, the way that they project themselves in so many ways, as it was with the Soviet Union, as they're dominating now, even after the Soviet Union has collapsed, they have so much strength in subverting our culture, and all that needs to happen is, and I know this is a meme now, but the Chinese are already dipping into anime. They're already dipping into Japanese culture. All it's going to require is them to continue to project their subversive ideology into that media, into video games, because they're going to get into they're going to get their fingers into that as well through money and investment. And they already are through Tencent and other companies. They are going to come at us culturally because they know that that's where they're strong in terms of strategy, and that's where they know we are completely fucking weak and submissive. And all that matters is time. That's what they have in mind, is longevity. Eventually, we will submit to them through our failing culture. And the only strategy that we have at the moment is to knock them economically, play into that weakness, knock them militarily where it's appropriate. And I think that it is going to require some, Kissinger levels of madman president or prime minister, depending on which nation, to do some crazy, ballsy shit to push them back and have them focused elsewhere, because we need to take them on through these other realms of which we're stronger, because eventually they're going to catch up, and eventually they're going to supplant us and dominate us through culture. It's just a matter of time unless we shake it up and challenge them in a real way. And that's why I am grateful to see whoever it is, I don't care who they are in terms of our enemy, so long, or a rival, so long as they are standing up to China and they are challenging them in this way, and they are taking the focus of the party off of us and onto others, especially with this India situation. Like, I'm half joking about Gulf of Tonkin and CIA action, but this is the kind of thing that's necessary to set them back because they're coming for us. They're coming for all of us.
Yeah, it's very much a war that only we don't realize in the West, a lot of us, that we're fighting, but in China, it's very ingrained that they are fighting.
Yes,
that they are, and a lot of the expats in China, a lot of the foreign Chinese diaspora work as agents of the Chinese state. We saw that in Canada. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with the whole thing with them buying up all the PP in Canada with the help of embassy. The whole operation there. Basically, all the Chinese people living in Canada ended up serving as agents for the communist state. It's madness. And once you have a populace that will fight like that, and in the West we are so divided and so removed from our roots and removed from our cultures and denying our culture and ashamed of our culture. And actively fighting against our cultures. You're right, that is where the danger is. But I also think that once a hot war starts anywhere, like a civil or international war, I think all of that disappears. I think that's where the real weakness is. If their aim is to have a civil war, I think a post-Civil War West would look very different than it is now, because I don't think the left has the utility to win that. And I think they wouldn't really reckon with what came next because they wouldn't like it.
No.
My fear is, and I understand what you're saying, and I do think it is possible, not to really play into the black pill Tim Pool stuff, but I never want us to reach the point of a civil war, because I don't ever want to risk our side losing. I don't ever want to risk that. I would rather have it. And this is the thing, when I say about the CIA, and I'm only half joking, there is an unbelievable amount of evil that I would be willing to do before risking the Constitution, risking this nation. And go ahead.
Can I just say something about about China and culture? When it comes to actual kind of worldwide China's impact on culture, I don't think it's so much that they are exporting actual kind of proper Chinese culture worldwide, but it's that they have a unfair influence on our own culture, on our own media, on our own video games or books or films or anything like that. If you want to be published in China, you need to bend the whim to the CCP. And that's where they're getting us. So it isn't even that they are just coming out with things which might be better. They're making their own anime shows, which are brilliant. No, it's that they are using everything which we're giving them. And we in return are just doing nothing about it because, at least we can make a little bit more dollar in China.
Yeah.
That's the bit of it which really frustrates me more than anything. Because if you remove all of that, what actual decent content in terms of cinema or video games has China personally added to the world? What is it that they can make? There's nothing.
They're just trying to get their foot in the door. That's the entire aspect of what they're doing, especially through Tencent, TikTok, Huawei, whatever.
Yeah. All of it comes from elsewhere, but they're just doing it with their own Chinese twist, and everyone's just bending down to it.
They are. It's people don't realize that China is the enemy. That's the big thing. They don't seem to see it as that. It's it's just Chinese money. It doesn't come with strings. Yes, it does.
It does.
All Chinese money comes with strings.
Yes.
All Chinese companies are extensions of the communist state by design.
Yes.
Like you said, read the Constitution, read the rules.
Even if giving the people the benefit of the doubt of saying that, and if it's your average jerk off, that's whatever. But if it's some lord in the UK, that person is suspicious. But
yes,
the reason I know that what I'm saying is right and that China is a threat is in the United States over the past, I want to say 5 years, there have been an endless list of stories that don't really go very far in terms of publication, but they still exist, of reporting of where we continue to catch spy after spy after spy after spy. And are they pizza delivery guys? Are they, garbage men? No, they're drivers to major, like the Speaker of the House. It's in the military. It's in national infrastructure that work with agencies. It's in universities. It's in all the institutions that hold up the American system.
Yes.
And The only reason why you would do that is to challenge those institutions, subvert those institutions, weaken those institutions, provide a means of surveillance so that you can then report. Like the one driver of Nancy Pelosi that got caught, I think it was Nancy Pelosi's driver, that was a spy for the Chinese. Okay. Why the fuck do you think he's there? Do you think it's just simply to keep an eye on her, or is it to look for information that they can use against her so they can try to turn her? Because they can surveil her with putting a microphone in the car. Why do they have her driver there? It's
to plant the seed. It's to give the driver someone who's quite personally related. You know, someone who a lot of politicians take into their confidence. Will talk to the driver, and that's again, you're right. It's this idea that China is a power who is fighting a war that we kind of dismiss. I think post 1990, I think post the collapse of the Soviet Union, right, there was this real feeling that the West had won and we didn't need to do anything else. And there was this very much, I don't know, I blame it on all the cocaine people in the 80s. But
I blame it on the neoconservatives for like creating an entire worldview. But then once the Soviet Union collapsed, they're like, all right, it's time to cash in.
Oh, it was Dianne Feinstein, I think, who had
Dianne Feinstein, yes.
Yeah.
It's not Nancy Pelosi, but even still, Dianne Feinstein was a major politician for the Democratic Party.
Oh, I think we do have a bunch of super chats now, though.
We do. Before we do that, does anyone else have anything they'd like to add on China before we go to the super chats?
We need to start relying on them.
What?
After you.
Okay.
Someone talk, damn it.
Okay. We need to spark a war between India and China. That's all I have to say.
Right. Okay. So let's go over some super chats. So Reno Thomas with the £2. Hello. Have money. Thank you. Moy Felicita with the 20 DKK. Much love. Thanks for coming out. Mr. Floppy Knickers with the $5. Thoughts on the money shortage? Real or push to go cashless, forcing strictly plastic and debit-centric BS? There's a money shortage?
There's been all these stories about money shortage. I think those have been planted by a lot of these industries and a lot of these interests. I don't think there's actually a money shortage. That's my take.
I could see there being a conspiracy to make everything go more towards debt, but I don't know enough on that. Sorry, love. Gone Nom with the $5. India just banned TikTok, and the US is thinking about doing the same. Yeah, well, we did kind of cover that after you'd said that, but no, yeah, it's important to highlight that TikTok is a cancer in more ways than one. I poke, I draw with the £2. Feed your metaphorical seal, Rose. I will. Jacob with the $5. If you want some real clown news, Ghislaine Maxwell was apparently one of the top 10 most upvoted Reddit users and moderated political subreddits. We're kind of holding on to that one. But yeah, we're touching on that. Nuka145 at $5. China is 2 steps away from starting ethnic cleansing in Africa to make way for more Asians to live in Africa. Prove me wrong. So is that basically China's version of Labor Strong?
Oh, no, basically, no, that's true. No, that basically is true. They have been displacing and abusing native populations in Africa ever since they started the Belt and Road there. It's part of why they're so unpopular with the populations. That's not a prove me wrong. That's just an established fact.
Well, no, what I meant is it's very similar to Labor Strong or the, what's it called? The Manifest Destiny.
Maybe that's why we're getting all this propaganda about empires and stuff.
Yeah.
Election.
And then I've got 3 from Gareth Green in a row. So first one, $4.99. Just to be clear, many of contemporary China's issues are endemic to its political culture of the past 2,000 years. I would say that there's a lot of accuracy in that.
I'll learn to make glass china, lol.
Next one, Mao was immeasurably worse, but post Deng Xiaoping, China is in many ways indistinguishable from any of the dynasties. As for Chinese cultural domination, that may happen, but CCP will be gone by the time it does. Will the CCP actually be gone, though?
I predict we'll have a we might have a Soviet collapse situation where people start to refuse to trade with China. But it's interesting that basically what we're seeing in terms of Black Lives Matter is the end result of a cultural op by the Soviets in the 60s. This is it bearing fruit. It's amazing that the operation outlived its masters.
Well, that was always the goal.
That does kind of make sense. But I get what he's saying about post-Deng Xiaoping China being very similar to the dynasties, especially under Xi Jinping. And finally, Gareth Green again with the $19. Thank you. Check out Le Coup de Foudre, a Chinese TV drama I love. There is a large Chinese film and TV industry, which is largely rooted in Hong Kong, especially the film part, but not entirely. I have watched a couple of Chinese films. Ip Man. The Ip Man series is Chinese, I believe. Like they do
Hong Kong, that isn't it?
Is it actually Hong Kong? Because
Ip Man was the guy who trained Bruce Lee, I think.
Yes, he was. I do remember watching Ip Man 3, which is the one with Mike Tyson in it. And they do go off on a weird tangent, basically praising the ideas of socialism.
I'm going to say when you say Hitman 3, it makes it sound like you're a very northern person saying Hitman 3. Hitman 3.
The best Chinese film that I've watched, though, I don't know the name of it. I watched it on a flight. It was about a Labrador puppy that got lost from her owner and then kind of went on a mission across China to get back to her.
So it's Homeward Bound.
It was basically Homeward Bound, but one puppy. Just like, and like, it was actually really, really good.
If you want some good Hong Kong action films, watch any of John Woo's like 80s stuff and early 90s stuff. So like Hard Boiled, Better Tomorrow. You will not be disappointed.
Well, Hong Kong cinema can be great. Like, you know, it is a proper thing. But if you're talking about actual Chinese cinema, like from the mainland, it's not quite the same apart from that dog movie.
There's Three Kingdoms. That's good. We know with Cao Cao and all that. That is fantastic.
Is that a film?
No,
I'm aware of Three Kingdoms.
Yeah, it's a TV show.
Oh.
A bit like Game of Thrones, but I think it was way before that.
I mean, like,
Louis, you know about that, don't you?
Most people know about Three Kingdoms because of Dynasty Warriors, I think.
I haven't watched the full series, but I have watched a bunch of the episodes of, I want to say, the 2013 one. There's two series based on Three Kingdoms that the Chinese have done in recent times, and I haven't watched the older one. That's supposed to be the better one. But I just enjoy the top nature of the 2013 one, whether that's intentional or not. But
is that on Netflix?
No, you basically got to find it on YouTube.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, it's on with Cao Cao when he laughs at the guy that he's just manipulated.
Yeah,
that's the best one.
I do find a lot of that stuff quite interesting because when I was a teenager, I used to play Dynasty Warriors, which is of course all about the Three Kingdoms. I ended up like looking a lot at all the different history. In fact, I'm sure that when in China, I might have gone and seen a statue of Guan Yu, but I can't quite remember if I did or not. But anyway.
One of the things to keep in mind about Chinese history, no matter how romantic they want it to be, is that it was unspeakably brutal.
Oh, God, yeah. So thanks everyone for the super chat so far. So now we have one seal left. Well, we technically have 4.
Is it good news?
The good news seal is ready to give us some mind bleach at the end. But I think the Maxwell seal wants to speak.
Oh, okay.
So how do you pronounce her name?
Ghislaine?
Ghislaine?
Ghislaine, I think it is.
Ghislaine. Okay, so does anyone want to tell us what Ghislaine Maxwell has done this week, which isn't kill herself?
Well, soon, but
still early.
Finally, belatedly got arrested because they've been talking about this ever since Epstein got caught. Well, not got caught, but got arrested and then promptly bumped off. I'd love that Epstein didn't kill himself, became a meme for a while because he fucking didn't. There's also the case that she was a pedophile fixer. There's a whole bunch of shit happened as well. And there's Ellen Powell, the former CEO of Reddit, came out and said that she personally knew that Ghislaine Maxwell was acting as a pedophile fixer, and all the globalists who threw all these parties that she went to and other people went to knew, and they didn't care. She promptly deleted the tweet and locked her account because I'm pretty sure she's scared of hanging herself tragically. But it's amazing that she would admit that she knew that there was a pedophile ring within the upper echelons of the global elites and didn't say anything.
Yeah, like that was really kind of weird, because the way in which she tried to backtrack afterwards by saying like, "Oh, we just heard rumors," but that was clearly not what she said. Like, she said it as though, yeah, we all knew that this was going on, but lol.
It was probably just Harvey Weinstein, sort of. It's an open secret, everyone knows, but none of them really want to step up and get hanged. If they
metaphorically and literally.
Yeah, they don't want to come out and just admit that this is what it is, because if you really look into Epstein, and even including her and her father, it's like a certain thing keeps coming up over and over again that no one wants to talk about. And I've seen some conspiracy theories about Epstein in particular, where there's a question as to why he was doing certain things, where his money came from.
And no one knows why he was rich even. It's very obscure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the people also including who he was with and who weren't necessarily pedophiles, but like his associates, and like the potential of where his money came from. Like, again, this one particular thing keeps coming up over and over and over again. And so it's a question of, well, if you're gonna, she's this madam for grooming kids, getting kids for these elites to fuck, and Epstein is the confidence man going around and having all these elite people fuck kids. It's the question of, well, why? Epstein himself is probably a pedophile, but with her, it's just, well, why? Why? And my position is there are a few likely scenarios where it makes sense as to why this happened. But the one that there might be evidence to contradict, but in my frame of reference, in my view, one of the ones that does make sense is Mossad.
The thing is, I looked into this because I thought it was a off-the-wall conspiracy theory at first, and then I looked into the links of it, and I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute. There's a lot of evidence here. No, you are right. I think a lot of it was pure blackmail, but I also think they were selling the information on to foreign intelligence services.
Yes,
and one of which possibly was Mossad. I know every time someone mentions Mossad or the Israeli state, people stole my shoe.
I'm not talking about sort of like a cultural conspiracy sort of thing, which is what they would be talking about. I'm speaking specifically to agency programs. And in this particular case, the connections that certain people have, including Epstein, all keep triangulating towards one particular agency. And in this case, it appears to be Mossad. And that while we don't know for sure just yet, there are certain questions that cannot be answered that don't make sense outside of the context of operations for the purposes of gathering evidence to then use against elites to achieve certain ends.
Again, it could be as, I don't say harmless, but it could be as obvious as just the fact that they were blackmailing people and the fact that they could sell it on to intelligence services was incidental. Or it could just, it could be as nefarious as the fact that these people were groomed and activated as operatives by a foreign intelligence service to try and get people in their pocket. To be fair, it's not anything the CIA hasn't done. That's what I mean. The CIA has done that over and over and over again. Like, that is part of it. The history of the organization is to get seed money, however you gather it, whether it's through Congress or through illegal actions. You take that money, you use it to manipulate someone that is a socialite of that sort, or an intellectual, some sort of person that has a lot of connections,
and you turn them, however, whether it's playing into them being a pedophile, allowing them to do that and helping them pursue that, degenerate end, but using their status to then branch out, bring more people within that fold, and then do the same sort of tactic, twist them.
There's a lot of very good evidence as well that Robert Maxwell was a Mossad agent.
He was also linked to MI6 and the KGB too.
Well, the thing is, with a lot of these confidence men, a lot of these con men who end up in elite circles, that's where they end up fleeing when a lot of their tricks get found out. They end up taking shelter. They end up taking shelter within state actors because that allows them to keep doing what they're doing with impunity.
Yes.
It's again, it's this grubby little circle. We're told to not believe that this global elite exists. We're told to not use the word globalism because it's an Alex Jones conspiracy theory. But this keeps on happening. I mean, come on, guys. How there has to be only so many times this can happen to you before you go, maybe there is a group of people out there who really do, if not control the world, at least think they control the world and aim to.
It's the boss, isn't it? As a thingy says. What's it called? Steve Bannon. Yeah. Again, I hate to become Mr. Medica here, but it really does activate those almonds, It really activates those almonds.
The thing you can take confidence in is that, like actors, these socialites, they might go to these elite schools, but they don't seem to be incredibly insightful or deep people in large part.
No.
And so when it comes to like the machinations of the elite and trying to rule the world, it's typically through government and blunt instrument policy, like what it is with the EU. Like, it's not particularly savvy.
No, and I think because of that, a lot of the more complex schemes seem to be intertwined with intelligence services, like the pedophile blackmail schemes, like all this stuff seems to be, again, coming from somewhere else. And again, it's a lot of the people will tell you're a conspiracy theorist, but it's the big way you dispel people. You say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. But anyone would have said that about Weinstein. I mean, look at what Weinstein did. He hired ex-Mossad agents to infiltrate the lives of his victims. If you'd said that the year before the Weinstein allegations came out, you'd have people left, right, and center calling you an anti-Semite for saying it.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but this is reality. This is reality we live in. And you've got it up right now, but the same Maxwell was also, you're right, she was an extremely influential presence on Reddit as well. She had this
weird
power on the internet. Again, it's amazing how many different pies these people end up with their hands in.
Yeah.
And they are untalented. She was a socialite. She was always kind of put forward as this socialite, which basically means you're an unemployed fucking trust funder. You're described as socialite. You have no other qualities that define you. You are basically useless. That's like Paris Hilton levels of useless as being a socialite.
Nice way of calling someone a parasite.
Well, you have use if part of what you do is facilitate transactions between people. Like if you have a problem with, let's say you're a developer and you need cement, and this go-between knows someone that creates cement, and they can get you a good deal. Like, that middleman is their role. Like, and I think that's what Maxwell was. She was a go-between.
Yeah.
She helped people connect.
So what I've got up here at the moment is a post that's apparently from Maxwell. 3 strong reasons child porn must be re-legalized in the coming decade.
Oh, dear.
Can't make this shit up. You can't. What Reddit was she a moderator of? Because she was the moderator of certain political... I think she was like the moderator of a default, even.
I'm going to see if I can find out. Just bear with me.
Yeah. It has so many tendrils. Do you guys remember the picture of Hussein Maxwell where someone dug into it and found that it was this weird Photoshop thing where like the movie poster in the background didn't make sense, the restaurant didn't make sense, people couldn't pinpoint where they were? It's kind of fascinating. These people end up as rabbit holes. But I don't know. What do you guys think that she's going to get Epsteined?
Well,
it's blatantly obvious. So they've already put her in the same jail that Epstein was in. Like the same one, which is just a really dumb move. If they're trying to keep it safe, she also has she has the Rona. She has the Rona.
How is that possible? She was like in isolation.
Yeah, well, she's now been put into. Apparently, she's now been put into isolation because of Rona.
Oh, she was given the Rona.
Yeah, so she apparently like when that first came out, I thought it was a meme, and I'm sure there was one post trolling about it. But then, like afterwards, I've seen it kind of come up like as a legitimate thing. So there's so many covers that they're already kind of putting in, and all this media speculation of, oh, she's going to give out some really big names. Like, no, she isn't.
Oh, she's not, guys.
No, she's not. Like, don't do that to us. Don't do that to us. They just, we're just waiting for the shock as she.
If true.
Yeah. Like it's like I think that I think that they're going to say she died due to complications of Rona.
It depends on how obnoxious the powers that be want to be in this regard. But like with Epstein, that was pretty damn obnoxious.
Yeah,
like it's very clear something went on there. With like all the camera footage is just fucked, and the guards are sleeping, and it's just like. There's too many coincidences for it to be believable that this was all happenstance, that this guy, even if let's say he did kill himself, the guy very clearly was set up to do that. It's like the episode of what it was, True Detective, the first season of True Detective, where the powers that be call into the prison where one guy is getting held who knows too much, and he does in fact kill himself, but he's given a phone call by one of the power brokers that say basically you got to kill yourself or else, and he does. And that could be in fact what happened to Epstein, that his last conference with his lawyers is one of his lawyers took him aside and said, listen, you better kill yourself or else. Like it could always be that he did in fact kill himself, but there is obviously a conspiracy around these people. It's quite obvious that there's something going on with these people because they were involved in an actual conspiracy.
Yeah.
So as it relates to her in particular, to Maxwell in particular, we don't know. The powers that be know what she knows to some degree. They have to.
Yeah.
But it's the question of how much does she know in comparison to Epstein? Epstein very clearly, through documentation, knew more. He was in the know. He was the one with the knowledge as it relates to what was the goings on. But as it relates to her and her grooming of these kids, it all depends on what she knows. And the issue is how obnoxious will they be with her? Because the powers that be could always figure out precisely what she knows, what she's willing to say and not say, and offer her some kind of deal. To where she does just go to prison.
That's my alternate theory, that she will basically say, nothing to see here, folks. It was just Jeffrey Epstein and, these small fry sacrificial lambs.
Yes.
No big conspiracy. Nothing happened, and she'll get a sweet deal out of it.
My expectation, and it's not to say that they won't just kill her too. That's always a possibility. Or she kills herself. It's always a possibility. But my expectation with her is she's in a room with either her own attorney or someone's attorney, some legal person, and there's an agreement made as to what she's going to do. And they could always double cross her in that sense as well. But my expectation is there's going to be certain small fry sacrificial lambs, and she's going to take a plea deal, and that's going to be it. That's going to be where it stops. That's my expectation for her. If they don't just kill her, is she takes a deal. Certain small people that we don't know, that are some random socialites as well, they go down for pedophile shit, and she goes to jail.
No, that makes sense. I mean, right now the whole world is just expecting her to die. So, it would be incredibly arrogant for them to just try and pull that on the world again and just be like, yeah, there's nothing to see here.
It is in their nature to do that, because what it also does, every time they do this kind of shit, it's not just about Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
It's about scaring everyone else, that if you ever get caught, if we ever get you in a cell, you're not outside of our grasp. We can always kill you just the same. And push you to, even in the case that he did do it himself, we can push you to do it yourself. We don't even need to touch you. We can still be the reason why you die. It's fear is a very powerful motivator. It is the main motivator of so many things. And I think that the powers that be, they are arrogant enough to do something like that again, because all it does is generate more fear of them, even if it does generate anger among the plebs.
Yeah.
It is very much a fuck you, we can do what we want and you can't stop us move.
Yes.
I mean, what will happen if she did end up dead? Like, are people really going to go out
another impotent investigation that says that she did it herself?
There'd be more memes. Ghislaine Maxwell didn't kill herself. Haha. There's no one's going to take to the streets because they've not been told to. That I try not to be the purveyor of black pills, but in this instance, anyone who thinks that Ghislaine Maxwell is going to bust this thing wide open is at best deluded and at worst retarded.
Well, the question is politically, let's say this all happens. Let's say that people are angry. She's obviously murdered. Let's say it's just a straight up murder. They find her with 3 stab marks in the back and they say that she killed herself. So it's obviously murder. The fact is that politically, especially if my view of this is correct about this being Mossad related to some degree, what political party is going to stand up to that? What political party is going to be, this is a Mossad conspiracy?
Yeah, it's not in anyone's. The truth, unfortunately, at the moment, doesn't seem to be in anyone's interest, and that's the depressing part. That they can abuse children with impunity and get away with it. And that's what I think, honestly, though, that building anger is going to be a part of what could happen. I hate to get all Tim Pool here, but everyone seems to think that civil strife isn't possible, but I don't think it is. I think it's not the best recourse. I think it would probably weaken us greatly and open us up to some sort of, open us up more to the influence of China. But people are playing with fire right now. I think people are the angriest and least trustful they have been really since like the height of the Cold War.
I absolutely agree with you, Scrump. I think that this is a measure of playing with fire, because that's the problem with the arrogant, with hubris, as it's always been in history, is that they fundamentally misunderstand the breaking point that people have. And I can tell you that on the right, man, this pedophilia shit, it radicalizes the shit out of the right. I've seen so many like limp dicks sort of like, I'm a Christian conservative. But anytime it starts fucking with kids, man, it radicalizes them quick. And I'm telling you, man, like a lot of people misunderstand. A lot of the neocon sort of elite on the right, they fundamentally don't understand that. I do think that on the right, that the potential is there, that if they push this too fucking far, and I don't think it will be, let's say it's the example of like, let's take a Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. So it's not this groomer like her, but it's a man. It's a powerful man. And he is a straight up pedophile. Everyone knows, it's so clear. And let's say it's another sweetheart deal. He gets just walked out of the courtroom. He just walks based on all these pedophilia charges. I'm telling you, it might be just another instance of like that. It gets big enough on right-wing circles. You will see just straight up right-wing mob justice showing up to the courthouse, gunning that guy down and not caring about the consequences.
I think people are just, there's just so much anger around right now. And again, this just feeds into people's distrust of the media, distrust of the establishments.
I think it's well beyond that of the media, like especially when it comes to the what's going on with police, the police standing down and people being just at the whim of the mob, and prosecutors going after those defending themselves, which they have in every one of these instances, including the Democrat civil rights lawyers who were, had the AR and the woman with the pistol on their own property. The prosecutors are going after them. If we're defending their own property in a private community, in a gated community, and all these people
aren't being prosecuted yet, but they are being investigated. So.
Yeah, they're looking to catch them on charges. And the fact is that like the problem isn't even the media, because people are used to that. I think at this point, the problem that I think the real risk in my view is, and maybe this is my own bias in that, I think that if you have enough people that view the state not just in a sense of it being like not representative of them, but the state has failed the people.
Yeah.
And that the state is complicit with the anarchists and the criminals. I think that is the most dangerous thing that you can push, because you're going to get to the point where the people will see the prosecutors, the courts, the police, the politicians as in bed with their enemies.
Well, they have no that once you the biggest mistake I think the left has made in terms of this whole debate and in terms of what's been happening in the wider sense with the globalist stuff and all of that is that they haven't left the quote unquote right, I guess. Anyone who's not within their clubhouse, they've left them with no recourse. They've left them with no outlet. They've left them with no place to speak, no place to debate. They've banned them from social media. They've got them fired from jobs. And that is the biggest mistake you can make because the only recourse you leave them is armed conflict.
Yeah,
and again,
they're effectively a cornered tiger.
Yeah, they are. You corner them. You give them nothing to lose. And again, once you remove their investment from the system, once they think the system isn't with them, it's against them. Once they think the court's against them, the police have abandoned them. The state is shielding all these pedophile monsters, coupled with the fact that they have no place to speak about that. That's why I think there's this powder keg mentality with the people who have their ears to the ground.
I agree.
It's not a black pill. It's just the reality we find ourselves. It's tenuous. I don't want it to happen.
The black pill is the concept of knowing that and not caring or encouraging it, something like that, like nihilistic nonsense. But I think what we are in fact red-pilled in that we're trying to express the fear of this reaching the point of no return, where we cross that threshold where people are radicalized enough to where they are willing to engage in violence and simply don't care about the repercussions. They don't care anymore what happens once they pull the trigger or throw the punch or whatever. I think that unfortunately we really have to, and it's going to require like what the right, and you say the left, I have to condemn the right just as much of like, and thankfully it seems there's reports coming out of the White House that Jared Kushner is basically being told to sit down and shut up as it relates to his left-wing bullshit.
Good.
Finally.
The GOP pushing fucking prison reform and all this bullshit, which is just leniency in sentencing for criminal filth. I've had enough of leniency when it comes to criminals. The fact is that like when it comes to all the drug war and the mandatory minimums, we're still talking about fucking criminals.
Yeah.
I don't give a goddamn rat's ass what the fucking, the criminal justice was too harsh in the 90s. It's like, who gives a fucking shit? We're talking about criminality now. And they don't care about the law. They don't care about the courts, the sentencing. They don't care about any of this.
The bigger picture as well is that people haven't been able to leave their house for a long time.
Yes.
And they feel that the issues being tackled aren't the issues that affect them. And again, it's the thing that they see. It's the spark. A lot of this stuff with the Ghislaine Maxwells and the Jeffrey Epsteins, it's the spark. It's I can't get a job. I can't even get a haircut. I'm not allowed to leave my house. There's fucking gangs of people outside tearing down statues in my neighborhood. Like, and there's pedophiles on the news, being let off. Like,
yes.
Fuck it. That's where a lot of this mentality.
I got to tell you, man, I talked to Sargon about this, and I didn't really. I talked about it in a video, but I talked more about it with Sargon. Yeah. That with the thing with the riots, even though things seem to be calming down in large part, outside of this crime wave that's happening all over the country, including in every major city in New York, it's a fucking crime wave at the moment. It's like every day I'm hearing in my local area, hearing about shootings, hearing about.
They're covering up as well what's been happening. I have some people on the ground in Atlanta and in Georgia, wider Georgia, and the police stand down there has been disastrous.
And there's been a media blackout in Chicago since May.
Yes, there has. They had a record. They had, 15 shootings in a single district one night. It's been insanity.
And then you had the little girl in Atlanta. The 8-year-old girl who was shot outside of a Wendy's, driving away from like the mob outside of burnt Wendy's.
Yeah, her dad got killed, right?
Violent crime has exploded, and it's in my area. They were talking just the other day. It was on the news, and there's like on it, off it, which is so typical of local news. The homicide rate in my area has doubled. And it's like, that isn't news?
Yeah, they're not reporting it. It's nothing.
Well, it's like the amount of stabbings that we've had in London over the past couple of years.
Fucking raves going mental.
Yeah, it's just not reported on.
It's like, it's everybody else's fault but the people.
Anyways, the point I was trying to say, and I said this to Sargon, is if these people, and it looks like this isn't going to happen, but you saw an example of that with the two civil rights lawyers, if these rioters, so-called protesters, if these rioters show up to the suburbs, like that to me is going to be the tipping point. That is going to be the threshold that's crossed. Because I showed examples of this. I played a video on Twitter that I didn't do a video on, but it happened in Philadelphia and a slew of different cities, that when the rioters crossed into the suburban areas where it's white majority, these guys, like, it's all working class men. And in the instance, it's upper middle class with the civil rights lawyers, even when they're Democrats.
Yep.
They're so like exhausted with this, even if they're going to go out there and cuck and say a little bit systematic racism, blah, 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 they are still like just short of willing to engage in direct violence. Well, just short.
Going back around to the meme that I showed, that Tim fucking Poole has bought a firearm and is engaging in active promotion of self-defense. He's become his inner Roof Korean. And he was someone who was memed on for being so mild-mannered, so centrist. He was basically like, you know, he was the news equivalent, I think, of tap water at one point, really. I don't want to be too hard on Tim, but really, he was the fence sitter. He was the moderate of moderates at one point. He was. And he was. I think he's kind of like this wind, like he's a weather vane of where a lot of people are. He's just like, fuck it. You come onto my property, you get fucking shot. I don't care anymore.
That's the attitude people should have.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to have to go rather soon, so I might have to do the seal of the week and the seal of approval rather soon.
Yeah, we'll start wrapping up. Does anyone have just before we end on Maxwell? Do we want to do a little poll? Do you think that how long do you think it will be until she goes the way of Epstein?
A couple of weeks.
Let's get a Deadpool going. Come on.
Yes. Okay. How long? Sorry.
2 weeks, I say.
2 weeks, Louis.
Whenever she's set to testify in the lead up to that, or whatever, like behind closed doors that they have planned for her.
Scrump.
I'm going to give her a month. I'm going to say a solid month.
I'm going to say 2 months. I'm going to say 2 months because I think there's going to be a little bit of time for people forget that she's in jail. And then all of a sudden it'll just be like, oh shit, yeah, I remember now. This is kind of like Epstein. Like Epstein didn't die like straight away. Like I think there's a bit of I think there's going to be a little bit of time. But anyway, because we do need to start wrapping up the show. First of all, the good news. Scrump, is there any good news?
I'm going to continue with my coronavirus good news because despite people panicking about the illness, things actually don't seem to be going too badly. There was a report this week that 80% of people who've been tested in certain areas are asymptomatic. So it seems that a lot of people who've got the virus and got the antibodies haven't even been ill. So once again, I will come out and say, people, you know, the world isn't dying. Stop being so scared. I'm not going to get into the whole face mask debate. There's a lot of things we don't know about the virus, but all indicators seem to show, you know, continuing that things are even better than we thought last week. You know, there's a lot of people are asymptomatic. Things aren't spreading as fast as we thought. A lot of the stuff is due to contact tracers. So, yeah, I know a lot of people are angry. It was kind of a nothing burger in the end. But no, you ain't going to die. Go outside and get some sunshine, my dudes. things are okay. Breathe.
Right. So with that, we need to. I forgot to make the straw poll. I started making it. I actually started making it, but then I forgot to put the link to it.
We'll do it in the chat again. We'll do it in the chat.
We'll do it in the chat.
Yeah, give a shout out. Who do you think had the best takes this week? Come on, guys, give us your votes.
But whilst we do, here is the seal of the week. I really like this seal because it looks like he's kind of going like, here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah, he's winking.
So here's the seal of the week. So everyone vote in the chat to see who you think won. So far I can see a few for Louis, a few for me, one for Sargon.
God damn it! The soy father has enough promotion. Don't give the soy father anymore.
Hey, we're gonna get the soy father on at some point.
We'll try.
We're gonna get Sargon. We're gonna get Short Fat Otaku on here as well.
Yeah, when he stops, doing Canadian things.
Yeah.
Stops riding a snowmobile. Sorry, Dev.
He's a boomer. What can you say?
He is a.
I impressed someone with my knowledge.
Macho boomo. Everyone's voting for Sargon now. God damn it.
So sorry, I'm a boomer.
So yeah, it's kind of like a three-way tie between me, Louis, and Scrump.
No one seems to be voting. Come on, let's give the guys a couple more minutes.
Come on, guys.
Come on, vote, you fuckers, vote. I'm gonna vote for Louis because I've meant to have him on something for a while because a lot of people don't like his rants for some reason, but I think they're epic. I do enjoy.
I would vote for Louis as well.
Certain people don't like being wrong, but it's okay.
No. The thing is, you don't do it all the time. But when you get on a tear, I do enjoy it. That's why I'm still trying to bother Dev to have you on Dumping with Scrump. Shill.
No, I don't want people's pity. Just don't vote for pity vote. I want dignity. I don't want pity.
Okay, so next week we'll make sure to actually have it in the straw poll. I
meant to do it this time, but I got distracted.
That's fine. I've been distracted as well. I think we'll give it to Louis. We'll give it to Louis.
We'll give it to Louis, yes.
So congratulations, Louis. You got the seal of approval.
You don't win anything.
Oh man, the chat's getting harsh. Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say
Mitch exists. Sorry, Mitch. Oh no.
Oh, chat disavowed.
Oh no.
I'm glad Mitch was here.
Womp womp. It's good to have him.
Yeah, it is. He's always good on the
I
show.
even stayed longer than I was intending to.
Yeah. So we have actually got a few more super chats that have come in.
Yeah, sounds like a wrong person.
From we got like loads from Gareth Green. Like wow, he has got cash to splat. Jesus Christ.
That's how I know he's wrong.
$49.99. $49.99, like $50. Bloody hell. Laws are supposed to be actions, not people. By dismissing criminals as a class, you are creating a class system based on status and destroying the Western individualistic society of contract. Criminals must have their rights.
Who violated that contract?
On people, so.
Who violated that contract there, Gareth? Did I do it? So yes, criminals as a class, as soon as they're felonious, they have less rights than I do. Why? Because they broke this contract and they have to live with those consequences. You can appeal in court to have your rights restored, which I support. But the fact is that I'm never going to apologize for these people because I've spent the last several years investigating them and I despise them and they deserve what they get.
He continues with a $15 defended because if criminals don't have rights, no one does.
That's incorrect. They're still citizens. That still means they have rights. But the fact is that they didn't. I didn't choose to take away their rights. They chose to violate the contract that you're speaking to and to have their rights taken away because they were convicted of committing felonious crimes. You speed on the road, you get a speeding ticket, you're not getting your rights taken away. You could get your license taken away, but that's not a right because you endanger others. It's these people that they're reckless, they're impulsive, and they're willing to do evil for their own selfishness. And the fact is that you can only be so permissive of that before long where you don't have a society anymore or one that's like in a film as a fallen society. I don't
think anyone would disagree with the necessity of laws and prisons. Then again, anarchists, but fuck anarchists. So,
right. Well, I understand the position that he's taking, but we have reached the point where I think it's very clear with what is happening that we cannot be permissive of criminality because it only breeds more criminality.
We've seen the consequences of that recently, haven't we?
And the thing is, I know this from my own experience. I know this based on studying and being well read, that when you exist in a city or a society, whatever, a community, let's say, where criminality is permissive. You will have good people that do wrong because they think it's fine, because they see everyone else doing this.
And it doesn't take a lot of people to ruin it for everybody. I mean, just look, it's only a couple thousand people who are writing, maybe a couple tens of thousands. That was enough to ruin how many businesses, how many blocks were burned down.
I gotta go, but what I'll say, hey kids, crime doesn't pay. Listen, Uncle. You need like Louis the crime dog. Hey, dude. Louis here.
That's great.
Right, let's wrap up the show now, guys. I think we all kind of need to heads up. But
Louis the cruel crime dog.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna take a bite out of crime. And there's a pedophile around, I'm gonna bite out of his throat. No,
anyway, I want to thank everyone for coming in and watching the show. Especially want to thank Gareth for like the amount of super chats that he sent in. That's
worth, dude.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, thank you so much.
Thank you, my dude.
I'm honestly speechless. Thank you so much.
No.
But I want to thank my guests, Mitch and Louis. Thank you both so much for coming on. I hope I can have you back on again soon.
Of course.
Yep, sure.
And special thanks to my trusty co-host, Scrump.
Hey. I don't know why you keep thanking me. I just appear. I don't really do very much.
Just before we tune out, I apologize there wasn't a video out on Monday, but I am in a position now where I can make more content because I've taken a sabbatical from work. So I now have a lot of spare time. So I'm going to be focusing a lot more on my channel and kind of getting better and stuff. So expect more content. I know I always say that, but it's coming. It's coming. Anyway, thank you all again, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Nick.
Oh, God.